This is Choose the Bear, where we dive deep into the power and joy of living a vibrant, independent life on your own terms. This podcast is your go-to source for smart, fun, and insightful conversations about what it means to embrace independence and live the life you choose. I'm Kat Calvin, and together we'll explore how this movement is challenging outdated stereotypes, redefining success, and empowering people to live their best independent lives. This is the second London episode, and it was just as fun. I was so excited to get to meet and interview Radhika Sanghani. She is such a cool author. She writes these really awesome, badass books for girls. She's written some really interesting stuff about being single and empowering women. She has a new book that she's working on that is terrifying to me, but I think she's going to do an awesome job with it. And she's also just so nice and so fun. And it was so wonderful to get to just sit in a room and have some cookies and tea and talk. And I think you'll really like her. I'm going to link her website because she has so many books and so many things that you should check out, and hopefully, buy some empowering books for some girls. She also has done a really cool job of building a varied and interesting life. And we talk a lot about that. So I hope you like this interview. I hope you go out and buy some of Radhika's books and, maybe even write a book of your own. We'll see what Radhika inspires you to do. And I hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone. So this is now episode 2 of what I'm calling my Soho House series of doing really fun in-person interviews here in London. And I'm excited because I am here with someone who is living the dream life. She's an actual full-time author with actual books that actual people read. It's a miracle. Her name is Radhika Sanghani, and she is gorgeous and fabulous, has great taste in glasses, which as a glasses girl, I appreciate. And is here. We're sipping some tea. We're being very British. And we're going to have a conversation all about the books and the life and finding joy and maybe a little bit about not lying. I'm not fully convinced. But hi, thank you so much for being here in my cozy little room.
Thank you for having me.
So tell everyone all about you. Who are you? What do you do?
Oh, that's such a big question. But okay, I mainly write books. I've written some adult novels, some novels for children, for teenagers. I'm now getting into nonfiction. I also work as a journalist, and I've written for a lot of newspapers and magazines. I've also done a bit of screenwriting for some shows on the BBC. And what else do I do? I teach yoga sometimes. I'm a writing mentor. I feel like I'm doing a lot of different, slashes, a lot of different careers. Yeah.
Well, you are, and I mean, obviously I Insta-stalked you, and web-stalked you, and Google-stalked you, and I was like, she is living 800 lives. You're doing so many things. You've got so many paths that feel really exciting and fulfilling. The screenwriting was so exciting. You've written some TV shows that have been on TV, which is crazy. How did you go about building this really exciting, varied life?
I think it's kind of all just happened bit by bit. Mm-hmm. And my career plan is, I've never really had a career plan. When I was a teenager, I was like, I'm going to go to work and wear high heels, that was my career plan. And then
It's a start.
I'm just going to say I've never worn heels to work, ever. I now basically wear pajamas. But, and then after university, I decided to try journalism. It was really let's just see what happens here. Mm-hmm. And then I stayed, and I really enjoyed journalism, but I think that's when I really started to think, okay, what do I want from life? I was in my early 20s. And I looked at the editors around me and I was like, okay, I could climb this path and wear heels to work and be, a person that goes to work and has a successful job. And I was like, they don't look that happy.
Yeah.
And I started to realize, like, I actually just don't want that. Like, it wasn't good for my soul.
Yeah.
It was good for my ego, but not my soul.
Yeah.
And so then in my sort of mid to late 20s, I decided to go freelance. And that's when everything started to kind of expand. Mm-hmm. I thought of it as moving sideways rather than climbing the career ladder. And I felt like just choosing that allowed me to slowly see new opportunities one at a time. Because before that, yeah, I'd been working at the Daily Telegraph newspaper, you know, intense, busy. And I'd been saying, I don't think I'm really happy working full time anymore as a journalist. Mm-hmm. But all my friends were like, well, just quit. What about this? What about this? What about this? And everything they said to me, I was like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. That's not for me. You don't understand. No. And it's like, I just couldn't see beyond what I was doing.
Yeah.
So it was only when I quit and handed in my notice, and I was like, oh my God, I'm free. Mm-hmm. And I handed in my notice thinking I'd get a similar job somewhere else. But the second I did it, I was like, I don't want a job anymore. I don't want to work for myself.
Relatable.
And yeah, since then, I've really just been... I try and follow the curiosity. Mm-hmm. Like, if something seems exciting to me, like writing a script, I'm like, well, I've never written one before. May as well try one, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wrote one, and then I saw this competition for the BBC. They have a comedy writer's room. And like hundreds of people apply, and they take like 12 people or whatever. And I was like, well, I may as well try. And I feel like that kind of, you know, why not attitude has really served me well, because I then got a place onto that scheme, and that opened doors for me with screenwriting. Mm-hmm. So I'm always just like, see what I feel like doing and then see where it takes me.
I feel like you just said two things that have been really instrumental in my life as well, which one is, for every career that I was thinking about, looking at people who've been doing it for like 10 or 20 years. Yes. And you could very easily see like, oh, I don't want to be like that. I gotta go do some. They look miserable. Their lives are terrible. Yeah, it's like we're gonna do something else. And then also, it's that curiosity and that why not? That I may as well try. Like the worst that can happen is I get a no.
Exactly.
But like you could be in the BBC comedy writers room, which is incredible. That's so awesome. So one of the things that I think that kind of approach requires is self-love and a willingness and a desire to live your best life, regardless of relationship or child status or anything else. Mm-hmm. And you wrote a book called 30 Things I Love About Myself.
Yes.
So you're the expert. So tell us all about the book, why you wrote it, and especially what you learned.
Sure. So that is my favorite novel that I've written. Mm-hmm. I've written 6 so far, I think. And
amazing.
It's my favorite because it's the book I needed to read. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not my life, although it's loosely inspired by my life. It's fiction, but it is about a woman who's turning 30, who's just had a breakup, and she tries to write a list of things she loves about herself, and she's like, I have like 3 things on here, you know, and they're kind of superficial. And the book is essentially her trying to write a list of 30 things she loves about herself for every year she's been alive. But it's so much more than that. It's her realizing who she is, accepting herself, and choosing to live life on her own terms. And I think that is just such a powerful message that I have always needed, and other people, you know, I think need to. And even though I feel like I wrote that book maybe 5 years ago, I know that message now, but I still keep needing reminders, because I think, you know, we were talking earlier about stuff like social media. It just, sometimes I go on it and I start being like, oh, but am I doing my life wrong? Should I do it like them or them or them? Yeah. And, you know, I know this stuff already, but I still do it.
It still gets you.
Yes.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's really important for me, I think, to still, you know, surround myself with these messages. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a really important lesson, and one that we just need, especially me, all the time. So I'm really proud of this book, and I love that it doesn't have a conventional happy ending. Yeah. You know, with the character finding romantic love, she finds self-love.
Yes.
And I just think,
the best kind of love. Other than dog love.
They're equal.
So, it's amazing that you've written 6 books. Mm-hmm. And we're going to talk more about them. But one of the things that I noticed on your website is that you do these really cool yoga and creative writing workshops.
Yes.
And so my college, university, still requires PE. Well, I don't know. I haven't been there for decades. But what I was gonna say, they required PE because the founder of the college really believed you have to have a healthy body to have a healthy mind.
Yes.
And I know, like, how much movement has helped me sometimes if you have writer's block or whatever. Can you talk about what that connection is between yoga and creativity and why you do these workshops?
So, yes, definitely. I really think that they've come about just from me living my life and realizing how much, particularly yoga, but that's just my chosen modality, you know, of movement, really, really helps me. And it opens things up in me. Like, I feel like I can go into a yoga session feeling a bit blocked, a bit whatever, and I come out and I just feel freer. And I'm not going to go into chakras and stuff because they don't resonate with everyone, but I do believe in like energy getting stuck inside of us and stagnant things, you know, and I really, for me, yoga particularly, that idea of just breathing, being with myself, I do believe that as we exhale, you know, we're just like releasing. And I feel like through moving and meditating, I can really let go of stuff and create space for new things. And you know, I'm sure, I've not checked, but I'm sure there are studies that show that, you know, when we're calm, we're more receptive to an idea. And that's definitely me in my own life, you know, like my best ideas come when I'm relaxed, not when I'm like, I need an idea for a project. It's when I'm relaxed. So for me, just this kind of, you know, particularly yoga, but just all movement, meditation, it's just like, it soothes me, it calms my nervous system. And then I'm like, ooh, ideas, fun, you know? And the creativity flows.
I love that. So I feel like all of these lessons, self-love and creativity and female empowerment, we should be starting with girls when they're young. Like, I was looking at that from being young. I was reading. It helps when you're a girl who's into fantasy or sci-fi because there's usually a really powerful young girl.
Yes.
But you write these really awesome books for girls that are so empowering and representative and creative and amusing. Can you talk about like what those books are and why you write them, what you're hoping girls get out of them? And I know you do, like, even you go to schools and you talk to girls, which is so awesome. And then just tell us all about that.
Yeah, of course. So I never thought I could write for children. And I was like, you know, only if I had children could I write for them because then I'd understand them, you know. And then these weird beliefs that I just create. And then, yeah, I think after 30 Things I Love About Myself came out, an editor in a publishing company got in touch and was like, I think you'd write really good children's books.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, thank you, but yeah, probably not. It's not for me. And she was like, whatever, just go away, think about it. And anyway, I ended up, that just sparked a seed in my mind. And it's that thing about following the curiosity. I suddenly was curious and I was like, could I write for children? What would that even look like? What would I write? And I had no pressure to get back to this woman. She just, you know, it was just casual. And then I slowly, a few months later, just started thinking and got excited. And I got an idea for one of my first children's book, which is called The Girl Who Couldn't Lie. And it's basically a version of my younger self. This girl, Priya, she's 12. She's a people pleaser and she's a perfectionist. And she's lying to everyone to pretend she's okay when she's not. And essentially she gets stuck in a magic bangle that makes her tell the truth the whole time. And for me, the message of this book, as well as just being like fun and silly, because, you know, kids need to be entertained too, it's all about learning to be vulnerable with people and learning to admit you're not okay and sharing and opening up and not kind of masking and pretending you're okay all the time. So it's been amazing writing children's books, and I've got 2 more with the same publisher that are coming out, you know, this year and next year, and which is fun. And the thing I love is that they're all messages my younger self needed. So I write for my younger self. I don't have children, so I think about my inner child and I write for her. And selfishly, it's incredibly healing. I feel like, you know, it makes me sort of relive uncomfortable things as a kid and a teenager, and I'm like, oh God, it's embarrassing. But I heal it by turning it into comedy for new kids.
That's
and I just love that I get to, you know, as you said, share messages that I think are so important with young children, particularly girls today. And I've also got another book called Here to Slay for teenagers, which is really all about like being who you are and owning your power. And these are the messages that, again, I still need as an adult, and I would just love for younger generations to be reading early on.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. And I love that you said that you thought that because you don't have children, that you couldn't write for children. Because I feel like there's this, like, real myth and belief about child-free women that we're like child-hating monsters who will eat your baby as much as look at it, when actually a lot of us really like kids more because we don't have to have them at home. Right. And if you look at so many children's books authors, the first that comes to mind is Beatrix Potter, right? There's so many epic, legendary children's authors who don't have children. And, so I think it makes perfect sense that you fit into that. And, but I feel like it's all part of, and I love that The Girl Who Couldn't Lie is about people pleasing, because women in general, I mean, I can't relate because I don't really care what anybody thinks.
I am so jealous.
But most women are raised to be people pleasers, and particularly women who are single or don't have children, there's an extra pressure that, like, well, then you really have to be someone who is living your life for others because you don't want to be seen as selfish, etc. So the fact that you're teaching girls this lesson really early is so crucial.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think also I feel like there's just so many expectations, particularly on women, on how to live life. And, even what you're just saying about that, if you're single and child-free, you should give more or whatever. But also just, like, I felt this pressure to be like, okay, if I'm at a big family gathering with people I've not seen in years, and I don't have I'm engaged, or I'm pregnant, or I bought a new house, like, what is my news? Yeah. And then I feel this pressure to be like, my career's a success, and it's exhausting. Like, my career's not always a success. I've done loads of things I'm proud of, but it's like there's just so much pressure to always have something shiny and to be proud of, and I just feel like it's so unfair and so exhausting. And for me, it's been really, really liberating to just try to opt out of that. And actually, at a family wedding a few years ago, I really was going through a bit of a rough time, and I felt like people were asking me, how have you been? What's been going on? And I had nothing to say. Yeah. So then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be honest. And I was like, I've been doing a lot of inner work. And everyone was like, but it felt really
See, if
true.
you were in LA, everyone would be like, oh, I so get it. I have a shaman you can talk to.
I'm just in the wrong
You're in the wrong
place.
City. Come to Los Angeles.
Oh my God, I would love that. Yeah, and it's particularly, like, at the family things for me, it's like, my British Indian family just don't, I was going to say don't always get it. I don't know if that's true, because everyone in the family is different, but it's just, there's maybe extra expectations and ways of doing things that I'm just not conforming to. Yeah.
Actually, and this is going so well because you're perfectly segueing into all of my next question, because I really wanted to talk about the hilarious article you wrote for Glamour in December, all about how to deal with your family at the holidays, which I think is relevant not just at the holidays, but any family gathering. And one of the things that comes up all of the time on the podcast is the pressure that people get, particularly during family gatherings. When are you having kids? When are you getting married? Blah, 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 blah. So can you give your advice for women who are listening, who have some sort of family gathering coming up at some point that, by the way, anyone listening, you can skip and it's okay.
Yes, also that. Don't go. I can't remember at all what I wrote in this article, so I'll just say whatever I'm thinking right now.
There you go. Perfect. I'll link the article. You can read it and get twice the information.
But, this Christmas, actually, I felt like I handled Christmas really well. And I think a big part was I just didn't make it about me. I actually just came with the intention of being curious about my family. And it was so cool because it just made me in, like, a really calm space where I just was a bit like, you know what, I'm actually going to just ask everyone loads of questions about them. And normally, not normally, sometimes I can get a bit like, oh, but they're not asking me about me, or like they don't care about my things because it's not, baby and marriage. But it was really nice kind of just getting over myself and just being like, I want to get curious about them and like learn more about them. And maybe I'm so scared of them being judgmental to me, but maybe I'm actually being judgmental of them as well, like assuming they think certain things about me. And yeah, I really just let go of some stuff.
Yeah.
And it was really lovely.
That's amazing. All right, we're going to talk about writing because I've had a lot of authors on this podcast who've all had one, maybe two books. I've got my one little book. You are like the next Stephen King with your 6, 7, 8, 9, 25 books. So how can we all be like you? Because, first of all, I mean, we were just talking at lunch about it's miraculous that anyone ever makes it through this publishing process, much less that as many books are out there as they are, like, given how difficult it is. And it's so hard for people to get started. And I've only written nonfiction, and I get the sense that fiction is much more difficult to get started in. So for people who are listening, who would love to write, how did you do it?
So again, it was that whole attitude of like, meh, why not? Let's just see. And it's honestly, I'm so grateful to like 21-year-old Radhika, because I was like, whatever. Now I think I'd find it a lot harder. But I'm so grateful to her back then, because I just wrote a book casually. I was like, why not? I want to write one.
Just casually wrote a book.
Actually, that is not true. There was in the middle of it a near-death experience, which I'm not going to go into in too much detail, but yeah, it was a bus crash in Thailand and people around me did die.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a massive wake-up call. And I was like, life is actually short, and so that gave me the momentum to actually finish this book that I'd begun. I'd begun it in like a living in Barcelona, I love my life, yay, life is fun. I'd written like one chapter, forgot about it. And then like 6 months later, I was in this accident. And then I was like, I'm going back to that book, because it's what I wanted to do. So I guess, I mean, that is the first thing. It's like, how much do you actually want to do it? And for me, thinking about mortality, what do I want to do with my life while I'm here? Write a book was there. So I had that drive. And then I wrote it, and I wrote it really quickly in a month, my first book.
Wow.
I know, it was wild, but I was, I was like not okay. I was traumatized. It was my therapy. I was writing a comedy, which had nothing to do with the accident or anything. So I was like, this is just escapism. And then as I got more okay, I started to really look at this book and think, this is actually good. So, that element of self-belief, like looking at it with objective eyes, like, this is actually good. Like, this is not worse than the stuff out there. If them, why not me? And then that gave me the courage to try and get it published. And I literally Googled, how do you get a book published? And I did what it said.
Me too. That's exactly what I did.
I love it. It works.
It works. There's so much information out
And it was
there.
like, number one, get an agent. I'm like, okay, how do you get an agent?
Exactly. I Googled that. Oh my God, same process.
And then it was just like, find, look at books you like that are similar to yours, find their agents, email them. So that's literally what I did. And I got an agent within a few months, and then she got me a publishing deal within a few more months. And it's just, I was very lucky with how fast it all happened. But I really believe, like, in like a higher power, and like things will happen in the right time, and I'm not in charge of that. So there's also an element of like being able to surrender things over. But I did my part, and my part was you
wrote the book.
I'm going to write it, and I'm going to put it out there and email people.
Exactly.
And so I really just think, like, if you want to do it, why not? It's just, and okay, maybe some people are luckier and they get it faster or whatever, but you can at least just write it, and then you've got something, you know, to send out and see where it goes. And I also know people who've had to write something and it didn't land, so they wrote another thing.
Exactly.
And I do agree with you, though, that it's a really hard process at times. I learned a lot. I really think I grew up a lot as well in it.
I bet.
Because it's quite like a humbling and exhausting process.
Yes, it is.
And I had to let go of expectations, and I sometimes find it hard when people can like hype you up and be like, this book's amazing, it's gonna do blah blah blah, and then you're like, okay, but I'm not like on the best-selling author list, so have I failed? Speaking to the soul. It's hard. That's hard too. So there's loads of things that are hard that I didn't even foresee as issues. And now I have many books in, and I'm writing more, like it's still going. I've got a couple on the go, and as I told you earlier, I'm doing my first non-fiction book now.
Yay.
Thank you. And so it's like, it is always a little bit hard. But I want to do it. And I've got things I want to say. And I've got ideas and stories that I want to write. So for me, that's the important thing. Like, while the drive and the ideas and the excitement are there, I will keep on writing.
Yeah.
And I hope that people will keep wanting to publish them. But I have had a serious think with myself that if ever for whatever reason that stopped, I would still be writing, because I am a writer, and that is kind of who I am. And so no matter what my money job will be, right now it is this.
Yeah.
But if one day it wasn't, I'm still going to be writing.
Yeah. I love that. I also think you just pointed out what I have always seen as the key to imposter syndrome. I do not understand imposter syndrome because there are so many idiots out there.
Yeah.
I don't know how anyone can look at Elon Musk and have imposter syndrome. And, when I was thinking about my book too, or whenever I think about anything, it's God, there are a lot of bad books out there. I can do better than that, And so it's just so, I think that changing that perspective of, don't compare yourself to freaking Hemingway, right? You're not going to be Hemingway. Your liver is going to be happy about that. But, but there are a lot of bad books, or whatever career you're in. Probably, for a fact, most of the people in your office are complete morons. So, how could you not think that you belong there? Yes. And that, that for me has always been the reason I haven't had imposter syndrome. So I'm well, that person's an idiot. I mean, look at any politician in any country, and it's really easy not to have imposter syndrome, right? Have you been a prime minister compared to a head of lettuce? No, you're doing okay. You're doing okay. So, I love that you said that, because that has always been a thing that I say to people when they think, I can't do this, I'm not worthy, or whatever. It's no, you can. Go read a really bad book. There are a lot of them. By major publishers.
And also the best is when you read a best-selling book that's bad, and then you're oh,
there's so many of them.
Hallelujah!
I mean,
there's hope, and the system is, it is not just a system that if you're really good, you'll do really well.
No.
And knowing
it's
that
quite the opposite
calms me
sometimes.
down.
Yes.
Yeah, because then it's this doesn't mean anything about me. Yes. It doesn't say anything about my value as a writer or how good I am. It's just a weird system.
I mean, Twilight has 3 or 4 or 12 ridiculously high-grossing movies, and they just made a show out of 100 Years of Solitude, one of the greatest books ever written.
Yes,
so, come on.
Yes. Years and years and years later.
Decades. Yeah. The man has been dead for a long time. Yeah. So, it is not about talent. 50 Shades has 3 movies, and War and Peace has 1. Yeah. So,
it is so true.
So you're fine, and I think it's that perspective change. And again, because women are so often more likely to think down on themselves, and that's why I love the phrase walk in a room like a mediocre white man.
Yes.
And it's just. It may not be the most positive way to look at things, but just think about the dumbest person you know, the worst book you know, and be well, I can do better than that. And you can.
It is true. It is true.
So we're going to close with a question that I have to ask because you write children's books. So I'm sure you've been asked a million times, so I'm going to ask it. What would you say to young little baby Radhika about her future?
Yeah, I do ask myself this as well sometimes, and I feel every time the answer is different depending on where I am.
Yeah.
But I feel right now I'm kind of seeing 7-year-old Radhika in my head. And I just think I would tell her it's okay, baby girl, it's going to be all right. You'll have ideas, of how it's going to go, and expectations and fantasies, and they're not going to come true. But other things will that you won't have even thought of,
Yes.
The world is bigger than the little things you think are a happy ending. And yeah, I would just tell her to, enjoy the ride. Let's see what happens.
I love that. The world is bigger than what you think is a happy ending.
Yes.
Can we get that on a t-shirt, on a billboard, on a mural? That's amazing. Yeah. See, that's why you've written 800 books. Thank you for doing this. Thanks for coming to I got to keep up the Soho House series because this is so fun.
I love it.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for writing your books because they really are amazing.
Thank you so much for this, Kat.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and of course, leave a review. Until next week, here's hoping you find joy in your solo life.